We're okay, guys. Okay. Happy Friday, everybody.
Guys,
Thank
man,
you
you did
so much. You did.
You got
turned
another
on.
week in the book.
Yeah.
Oh, and you tuned in.
You survived.
And you tuned in.
You're just going straight survival.
Yeah.
I'm like, hey, thanks for clicking on our podcast.
Thanks for joining us. thanks for hunkering down again through the work week, people.
Yeah, you did it. Here's your trophy. Guys, thanks so much for watching. Where are we at right now?
Who cares? Just keep going. I think you're doing great.
Welcome to Full Sun Living. We're going to talk about James chapter 2. Let's send it.
Okay. Guys, welcome to Full Sun. Nate Thompson.
Ethan Bricker.
We're in James, the book of James. We're going to be going through it. You already hit chapter 1 couple weeks ago. You guys picked up on that. We're in chapter 2.
Go back.
Let's go.
Let's go. Chapter 2. Nate's going to read for us. If you missed the last one, go to back.
Ethan read
Listen
the
to
first
chapter
time.
1. It was rough.
Lovely.
It was rough.
So I'm even worse at reading. So here we go. And James chapter 2. My dear brothers and sisters, how can you claim to have faith in your glorious Lord Jesus Christ if you favor some people over others? Probably come back to that. For example, suppose someone comes into your meeting dressed in fancy clothes. The way he writes this makes me laugh every time, so I apologize.
My favorite is how he writes it down below.
Okay, here we go. Suppose someone comes into your meeting dressed in fancy clothes and expensive jewelry, and another comes in who's poor and dressed in dirty clothes.
And many leather-bound books.
Oh, James. If you give special attention and a good seat to the rich person, but you say to the poor one, you can stand over there or sit on the floor. Well, doesn't this discrimination show that your judgments are guided by evil motives? Listen to me, dear brothers and sisters. Hasn't God chosen the poor in this world to be rich in faith? Aren't they the ones who will inherit the kingdom he promised to those who love him? But you dishonor the poor. Isn't it the rich who oppress you and drag you into court? Aren't they the ones who slander Jesus Christ, whose noble name you bear? Yes, indeed. It's good when you obey the royal law as found in the scriptures, love your neighbor as yourself. But if you favor some people over others, you're committing a sin. You're guilty of breaking the law. I'm going to finish this last chunk.
Yeah,
Is
you
that
should.
cool? Okay.
It's all kind of one.
All
yeah.
right. For the person who keeps all of the laws except one is as guilty as a person who has broken all of the laws. For the same God who said you must not commit adultery also said you must not murder. So if you murder someone but do not commit adultery, you've still broken the law. So whatever you say or whatever you do, remember that you will be judged by the law that sets you free. There will be no mercy for those who have not shown mercy to others. But if you have been merciful, God will be merciful when he judges you. Boom. Let's kick it. Let's get
My
into
translation says, mercy triumphs over judgment.
That's
Bam.
okay.
So I wrote down at the top, surface level judgments are evil, and how essentially like he's show no partiality as you hold the faith in our Lord Jesus Christ, the Lord of glory. And then he starts going through like partiality based off of appearances, based off of gold rings, fine clothing, all that stuff. So this whole idea of like how often do we make quick little surface judgments, like literally just so surface. Mm-hmm. And I don't even think I realize how the Lord's like, I see that. Like, and that's kind of the crazy thing with the Lord is he sees everything. He knows everything. And for us to make little judgments based off of people's appearance even is essentially rooted in evil thoughts, you know?
I think it's very interesting how uncomfortable we are around both ends of the spectrum. Like, this has been interesting to me for years. Like, you will see people that don't know how to interact with people when they know they have more money than them. Like, they don't even know how to really, it's just strange. And then they have this like judgment that like, oh, well, they're going to this, you know, and you say things that like these assumptions, these judgments, but then those same people, when we get put into a place with someone who's just extremely poor, like, you don't know what to do with them. You don't even know how to talk to them. Like, you don't even want to look at them.
Yeah.
It's the same. It's almost like you're doing the same thing. And it's weird how we judge like in those areas, like, and how you feel like you don't even, it's interesting. Like, I think if you took the time and you put yourself in a spot and you would find out quick how you handle both situations.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it made me, when I read this, it literally made me think back to like when we had Michael and Larissa from Upper Room, and they came, and there was this for me. I'm like, you guys are like heroes to me. And I'm just acting like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. They're here. And I'm like, I'm just at your feet, ready to learn. You know, this thought of like, you're like lifting them up. Right. And it's not bad to honor, but the difference is if somebody who is poor, who has nothing to offer you, to like treat them like, no, you don't need to be over here. You should be over here. You know what I mean? It's how quickly you do that, because you're almost like trying to protect this value that you created in your head. And yeah, it's like there's this polar opposite, like they have a golden spoon in their mouth or whatever, silver spoon in their mouth, and they're lazy, you know, and making these false assumptions that like, well, they were given all their money.
Right.
They wasted their life. They're lazy. They did drugs, whatever, all these different things. You start making all these assumptions, and the Lord is like, I have called you to be a child who is rich in faith, an heir of the kingdom. So, you know, I think in my translation, it says, has not God chosen those who are poor in the world to be rich in faith and heirs of the kingdom? And he's obviously trying to make this big comparison of you're honoring rich people. You're not honoring the poor. And he's saying the poor are the rich, you know? And that's where Jesus says, blessed are the poor in spirit, for they will be, what is it? Blessed are the poor in spirit, for they will inherit the earth.
Okay. Fact check that, people. It's in Matthew.
Hold on. We're going,
we got our
Bible right here. Bible. So it's one of my favorites, so
I can tell.
Sheesh. Woo. Okay, blessed are the meek.
Oh,
it's the meek.
It's the meek.
Yep, it's the meek. Blessed are the meek. They shall inherit the earth. Bingo! Who won? This guy. I win.
Did you?
Yeah, I did. No, blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. I mean, it's either this kingdom or that kingdom. Either way, they go in the kingdom.
And back to James.
And back to James, everybody. Quick little detour, and welcome back. If you look off to the right side of your bus, you're going to see a man who thinks he knows the book of Matthew, and he doesn't.
Dude, keep going.
Yeah. Anyways, so just this idea of like surface level appearance, but I go back to like that thing when we were doing the Between Sundays example of you talking about like digging in the gold and like getting dirt under your fingernails with the Lord. And like, yeah, everybody can have these gold nuggets, but like, it's one thing to have gold. It's another to be like, I have dirt under my fingernails from digging with the Lord. And I feel like there's this comparison with James, with the poor, where he's like, they're rich because they have history. Like they're heirs of this kingdom that we're all not from. And he's trying to get them to look at them from a different perspective.
I think too, it's also like for us to see the person, see people.
No, I don't like that.
Like, it's like where we will value what we think is valuable. So it's like, dude, I'm gonna just talk about this because I just was talking about it with
Let's
my
get
nephew.
real today.
Get uncomfortable. I was talking with my nephew. Me and him went on a bike ride, and we were saying something. I don't even know how we got on the subject, but I said I play the drums, and in certain situations, I'm very valuable because I have a talent of playing drums. So like when I was in my own band, it's valuable to have that, and then playing at church, so it's like, it's just funny. It's because it's like when you think like, all right, if I did not play the drums, I would be less valuable.
Wrong.
Right.
Yeah.
But
that idea of somebody loving you because of what you're bringing to the table.
Yeah. And it's like, and they don't, and I have never felt like somebody was like, oh yeah, just because you can play the drum. I've never felt that
I
over
feel that
any
way
time.
all the time because of my good looks.
Yes, you get it. So you totally get it.
Yeah.
But it's like we value, like I feel like what James is saying here is like, you see that gold ring, there's something behind that that can like fund something. You see the fancy clothes and the lotions and the
and the blouses.
the blouse, and it's like this shiny thing coming, and we miss the person because when you take off the fancy robe and the ring, it's just another poor person walking in the room. But and I feel like where James is like, for me, when I read this part, he's just like, there's this reminder of like, no, see the value. Go back to what I just told you that about of all creation, what we said in the last one, chapter 1, you became his prized possessions. Like it's us, and I feel like for James, like there's this reminder there of like the idea that we place on what is rich and what is poor.
Yeah.
I feel like James is like, for me, when I read this portion, I just want to value a person again.
You just blew my mind.
Come on.
Can I unravel why?
Yeah.
This is literally like, this is directly correlated to why Jesus showed up as a carpenter. Because if he showed up with a crown on his head and a ring on his finger and a beautiful purple robe,
pink one.
Yeah, pink, whatever, shows up super decked out, people will love him for the wrong reason.
Yeah.
He shows up, he's like, I want to be a carpenter. I'm going to come in low as a servant. And then let's let people love me. Yeah. Let's see who loves me based off of not my accolades, whatever, everything that I'm carrying, but as the person. And it goes both ways completely.
It does.
You know what I mean?
And when we remove the perceived value of who somebody is, we have real relationship with them. When going back to being a drummer, I was in a band. We were in Iowa. We were going to play at this festival. We camped out in some cornfield the night before, and Andy and I got up early, and there's a guy putting in fence posts because he's trying to put up like one of those fence, like, you know what I'm talking about, weird fence for a festival. So Andy and I are like, we'll help you with that. He's like, oh, thank you so much. And so we start banging in fence posts, and it's getting hot, and we're doing it all morning. And we're helping this, and we put up a sign. Dude, he's the festival. He is the festival. This guy is the person putting on the festival. So then he's like, I'm like, yeah, we're playing whatever. He's like, no.
We're playing,
come with me.
We're playing in the corner
where
nobody's at.
No, you guys can open for Stellar Cart, like the main band at the time back in the day. He's like, no, they're the headliners. You're going to open for them now. Why? Because we were just like, and you had no concept of rich robes and rings. It was just people seeing a person sweating, trying to put in posts and being like, I can help you with that. Got my young singer over here, young buck, Andy. He's strong. He's farmer type.
and he's got
a uncomfortable strength. So like we go to work, and it was just this moment where it's like, I feel like James is just reminding us, see the person. You value their poverty so much that you won't talk to them. You value their richness so much you don't talk to them.
Yeah.
Remove both and just get involved.
I think you could boil this even down to whether somebody is a Christian or not a Christian, whether they're a believer or not a believer. Like this idea of, well, I value them because I want to bring them into my social circle, or we have something in common. You know what I mean? And is this making sense?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Where you just you treat people who I have seen this in myself, where I treat people who are believers a certain way because we have something so in common, and then others differently because it's like, oh, we just have this great disconnect. And it's like, no, we really don't. You're a person and I'm a person. You know what I mean? We're all created by the Lord. Like whether you know that or not, it doesn't really matter, you know? And yeah.
Dude.
I feel like being around you, this has changed my world a bit. Because I feel like you do this really well.
Oh.
Just a little,
fluffing my feathers
gift,
there.
Little gift. I'm just saying. And I think it's real, you know?
Well,
it's for real.
Thank you.
I love you.
Gosh, I love you too, man.
This is awkward. Yeah, keep going.
Okay, here we go.
Verse
here
14.
We go. Verse 14. Got me all blushing. All right. What good is it, dear brothers and sisters, if you say you have faith but don't show it by your actions? What kind of faith saves it, or can that kind of faith save anyone? Suppose you see a brother or sister who has no food or clothing, and you say, goodbye, have a good day, stay warm and eat well.
It's so jacked up, by the way.
We do it.
Says, hey, God bless you, buddy. I'm really hungry.
Okay, but then you don't give that person any food or clothing. What good does this do? So you see, faith by itself isn't enough unless it produces good deeds. It is dead and useless. Now,
can I?
Yeah, stop.
Can we just pause there?
Yeah.
So this was why Lydia and I, like when we started like going on vacations, why we were like, we need to ask like homeless people to go out to eat with us, and bare minimum bring them food, or, you know what I mean, or something, or water or whatever. But this was the exact reason where it was like, if somebody's asking for food, if I just give them $3, there's a McChicken. Is that sufficient? Or should I like fill their belly?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Give them a good 6-hour stretch of no hunger, you know? And this idea of not just saying, bless you, we prayed for you. We prayed for your hurt knee, and then moving on. You know what I mean? Where it's like, it's not enough. There's a level of like, it's my responsibility, whether you want it or not, to offer you communion. You know what I mean? Like the table relationship where it's like we're seated down at a table. And that was actually one of the coolest things when we took, what was his name? I can't remember his name. Damien in South Carolina, when we took him out to breakfast, we're sitting in this nice South Carolina breakfast joint, and there's all these like posh white people. They're all like, "Oh, I just woke up for brunch this morning," and it's very golfy or whatever. We come in with this homeless man. We sit down in the middle of everybody, and everybody's just looking at us. Even the waiters, the waitresses, they're all just like, "What in the world is happening right now?" And Damien's scarfing food down. Like
he's happy to be
he's movie level where it's just hounding it, you know? And everybody's like looking at us, and I was just thinking like, the only reason they're looking at us is because they feel like he doesn't belong, which is so jacked up, you know?
But that's where you don't see the person.
Yeah. They're looking at torn jeans.
Yeah.
You know, somebody who hasn't brushed their teeth in a while, whatever.
And that's what, and like, dude, for you and Lyd, it's like you saw the person, like, because it's not even easy sometimes when you see the problem, because if in the way of like, all right, you see somebody struggling, they're on the struggle bus, so you're like, well, I'm gonna buy them, I'll get them lunch because you see the problem. So I'm like, I'll get them lunch because I can do that, because it requires more hospitality to take them out to breakfast, but it requires more in the way that you can offer them more than breakfast. You're having conversation with them. Yeah. Like you're equal players at the table. Yeah. You're both, it's just like people. You just became people.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, sometimes it's like we want to help the problem, which isn't bad. It's just that there's this requirement. It requires more. And it's like, are we willing to do it?
Pass over.
It asks more of us.
Yeah. And out of full transparency, the majority of the time where we've done anything like this, it starts with we see a problem. It always does. We've just let the next domino fall. And I think we overcomplicate it. It was the same with whatever her name is out lots of South Carolina stuff. But the other lady that we saw, she's like, I need food. And we were like, let's go shopping right now. So we just took her shopping. But it was like, the first thing was, I need cash. And we're like, we don't have cash. She's like, well, I really need food for me and my nephew. And we're like, okay, let's go shopping then. So it's like, we saw the problem and we just allowed the inconvenience to happen, which is a lot easier to say when you're on vacation. That's why, like, I mean, a lot of our stories are vacation stories because we're allowing ourselves to be inconvenienced.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We're like, we have the free time to do that. I just think that don't feel bad. I guess what I'm trying to say is when you see the problem and you only see a problem, don't feel bad about that. Allow yourself to get to the point where like, I see you and now let me humanize you.
Dude, because I feel like those, it's just steps, it's just doing things because like right here, he's just like clearly these people were seeing the problem when they're like, suppose you see a brother or sister who has no food or clothing and you say like, so you're looking at the problem. Then you say, hey, good luck, man. I'm going to pray for you. I gotta go. I got the kids in the car, bro. I gotta get. I'm gonna be praying for you. That's what happens.
Yeah.
The next step to me is, oh, dude. Okay. I was like, that's $20.
Yeah.
And and in your own brain, you're kind of like, I don't even want to give this away because I got the kids in the car and I was planning to buy us McDonald's on the way home.
Yeah.
So now you've gone an extra step, and now they're doing. And then there's like,
which is still good.
Which is good.
I think the Lord is still like, thank you for doing that. Yeah, but
that's like you have to start somewhere.
Yeah, yeah.
Starting here isn't. This is just recognizing it and moving on. You're not doing anything. That's like I feel where James is like, you guys, you see the problem, and you still ain't doing anything.
Yeah.
He's like, what are you saying?
Yeah,
and it's like this idea of like. Man, my friend Dakota, he reminded me of the funniest thing. Me and him were talking a while ago, and he was like, I remember you and Kate picking me up for church, and I was like the youth pastor, so I'd pick them up and take them. And he's like, and then we were late because we stopped and like helped somebody because they were on the side of the road. We pushed their car. He's like, I'll never forget that because we were kind of like, we're going to church, and we were kind of like, well, we can't. It was just a moment, but it was like how many times I've blown past people on the side of the road. But this one was just this example to me. It was like James being like, honk on your way to church and tell them you'll start late, wait for them to get there or stop and help them. It's like, it's seeing the person again. I feel like it's just like, it's hard. It's easy and it's hard. It's selfless and selfish. You got to see it. You got to slow down.
I feel like that all of this boils down to what the gospel is. In the last chapter, he says this is what true religion is helping widows and orphans. It's like, this is what we were called into as believers, was to be servants of all. And I actually just heard about this story from my in-laws in Africa, how in Africa, where if you have access to water, you're obligated to give everybody else water. So like if you have a well, anybody can come on your property and say, I need water. Yeah. And it's illegal for you to say, no, you can't have my water because you have water. You have access to water. And I was just thinking like, man, that would be so hard for us as Americans to deal with. Like somebody walking in my backyard and pumping out my water. It's this idea that like it's so challenging, and it's good to be challenged. And I think that's where it's, for Americans that we're so capitalist, that it's hard for us to deal with this idea of being equally generous to everybody. Which the Bible is very clear about. Also, like if you're lazy, that you just won't eat. And that's in New Testament and Old Testament. But just this idea of like being selfless and being an open opportunity to help people, I think is huge and something I want to improve on. I don't think we ever get there, but I want to just continually get better at this.
Yeah. Samesies.
Okay. Keep going.
Okay. I think I'm at 18. Now, someone may argue, some people have faith, others have good deeds. But I say, how can you show me your faith if you don't have good deeds? I'll show you my faith by my good deeds.
That is the most hardcore
He's hardcore, dude.
statement ever. I'll show you my faith
Oh gosh.
by
Okay.
my works is
Yeah.
what mine says. It's just okay. It's just legit.
It is legit. We're gonna come back to. I'm gonna just finish this out.
Sorry.
Oh no, you're good.
You're like, stop interrupting me.
You say you have faith, for you believe that there is one God. Good for you. Even the demons believe this, and they tremble in terror. How foolish. Can't you see that faith without good deeds is useless? Don't you remember that our ancestor Abraham was shown to be right with God by his actions when he offered his son Isaac on the altar? You see, his faith and his actions worked together. His actions made his faith complete. And so it happened just as the scripture says. Abraham believed God, and God counted him as righteous because of his faith. He was even called a friend of God. So you see, we are shown to be right with God by what we do, not by faith alone. Rahab, the prostitute, is another example. She was shown to be right with God by her actions when she hid those messengers and sent them away safely by a different road. Just as the body is dead without breath, so is faith dead without good works.
Hey-o.
Woo-hoo.
I think this is a struggle for me, with this paradox of grace. That's really a paradox is something that it's two things. It's free, but it also costs you something. Mm-hmm. It is free, but yet it's expensive. You're saved by grace, but yet you have to do something. You know what I mean? There's this great paradox, and the Bible is actually full of paradoxes, and they don't contradict each other. They add to one another. And I think that this is one of those paradoxes is that, where is it? You see the person is justified by works and not by faith alone. It's I think really hard for Christians sometimes to wrap their mind around this, because they're like, well, grace is a gift. I was saved for free. Yes, you were saved for free, but now your body is not your own, and your possessions are not your own anymore. And so there's a requirement from you now. If the Lord himself could give himself away, and the Father could give his own son away, right. There's something required,
Let's follow me down this, see what you think of this.
Let's go.
Okay.
Down the rabbit trail.
I think to me what it is there's the grace of the salvation and stuff, that, and then what we view here. Okay. James is talking about just when you're doing life or your works towards God. I think that I feel like Christianity has a confusion with that. I think, and I'm going to go into it, and correct me if I'm wrong. Jesus was asked, what is it to do the work of God? A Pharisee straight up asked him to his face, what is the work of God? Believe in the one whom he sent. So the work of God is to believe in Jesus. Mm-hmm. That's just the grace of it.
Yeah.
Everything beyond that all of a sudden becomes your offering to the Lord, is how I view it. So then you have James here saying, show me faith without works. I'll show you faith by my works. Mm-hmm. Show me faith without believing in Jesus, without the work of God. I'll show you faith by believing in Jesus. Yeah. So then all of a sudden,
I can't tell that you believe in Jesus until I start seeing some action behind it.
Because now James, his life becomes the offering to the Lord. It's not his works. His work is to believe in Jesus. And then everything from there becomes an offering. So then when we see here, now you've got two people he brings up, which is the most bizarre comparison ever. Abraham and a prostitute. He's going to because I feel like what happens to me when I read this portion, it shows me all right, the work of God is to believe in Jesus. If I can, that's enough work for me for the rest of my life. Mm-hmm. And then taking my life, Abraham, he believed in God. He had a belief, and his faith was in God. And then his life started producing stuff that was just came from it. It welled up in him to the point that he was willing to sacrifice his son. So then we can say, well, I'm not there. I'm not even close to that dude. So he's like, okay, I got a prostitute named Rahab here. And then you're like, whoa, easy, James.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not there.
Yeah.
You know, so that he makes such a huge parallel that I feel like he removes the idea of, oh, well, you're a better Christian than me, Ethan, because you're a licensed minister. You know, you and Lydia are a part of the board for the clearing. You're starting doing these worship nights and like, and we have this thought that you're doing all this work for the Lord. But their work is the same as mine. It's to believe in Jesus.
Yeah.
Then your offering, though, our offerings look different. So James here, he's saying like their offerings were different. Abraham's willing to offer his son. And Rahab's like, I'll get you a friggin' basket and throw you out the back window. I'll get you out of here. That's where I'm, But it was like, that's what she was able to do. That was her work to the Lord in the sense that was her offering to him because she believed in who he was. And I think we have this, it's crippling how we will say, I'm not doing enough work. I'm not doing enough work for God. When Jesus was like, well, what is the work of God? It's to believe in me. And if you start there, you hide that in your heart and it starts to grow.
Yeah.
I was talking to Connor. Me and Connor had crazy conversation riding our bikes for 2 hours because I'm like, dude, he has a friend named Connor. And I'm like, you have a friend where you don't see him for a year, you pick up right where you left off. If you have a friend like that where it's like, I don't know why we can't not be this great of friends. We don't even see each other. We don't do anything. And you can say, I'm not doing anything to maintain the relationship, but you are because you're treasuring the relationship in your heart. Like you have it hidden in there to where it's like, I believe in our friendship. I believe that when we come back together, we're going to pick up right where we left off.
Yeah.
But what we do with Jesus is we say, oh, I haven't been doing enough. Like, and it's like, so we don't cherish the belief of who he is. And then we try to beef it up by doing all this stuff. And I feel like James is like, your faith without the work of God, without believing in it, you're doing all these good things, but they're not even coupled to him.
And so now it's worthless.
Yeah. And then he's like, if you have your faith and your belief in the Lord, and that's the work is his belief, then what we label as the work is the offering to him. Like, as we, like he's saying, like, what are you doing to foster your belief in the way of like cherishing it? And like, and then we get comparative, but he goes so bizarre extreme with Rahab and Abraham. Yeah. I feel like he levels it out because he's like, no, Abraham's not up here and Rahab isn't down here. They're both here and Jesus is up there. So now they're doing their life towards the Lord and it just becomes even again. All of a sudden it's all just evened back out. And there are people who have their work towards the Lord is to believe in him, and then their lives become offerings towards him. And you can't compare. We cannot compare our offerings to each other. Nope. None of us can.
No, because you're running into different things and different needs and different environments.
Everything is different.
Yeah.
Everything, but we don't consider any of that. We just are like,
yeah, we need to do more.
And then
what
we
it makes
condemn
me
ourselves.
think of is Matthew 25, where Jesus is like, I was thirsty and you gave me drink. I was hungry and you fed me. I was in prison and you visited me. Like that is like and they're like, well, we didn't see you. Who were you talking about? It's like, it was me. You're doing this unto me. And I think that's where like your belief starts to cause you to see people as an opportunity to love on the Lord as that offering. Like this is for you, Lord. I think for me though, and I'm not going to give any answer here. I'm just going to throw it out there. So when it says you see that a person is justified by works and not by faith alone, this whole idea of justified means just as if I'd never sinned is like a way to kind of look at it as like justified, made right, all of those things. You're not made right by your works, but you're made right by Christ's works. So it just I think this one is one of those things where it's like, I think you're 100% spot on that the greatest work is to love the Lord. That's why the Pharisees asked Jesus, what's the greatest commandment? He's like, it's to love the Lord your God with all your heart, your soul, and your mind. And to me, this is one of those verses where I just sit there and I'm like, like, what's that mean? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
no, I know
what's
what you
that
mean.
entirely mean? Because of this whole like justified not by faith alone I guess what it, in my mind, it makes me think that it's not enough to love Jesus and do nothing. You know, like,
Dude, I think it's the outward reflection for people to see in the way that it's really not. Gosh, this could be this could be a dumb example, but if you had a basket full of apple seeds and you said, I'm an apple farmer, you would have everything to be an apple farmer. Mm-hmm. So I can't fully argue with you, because you're like, you hold up a seed, everything in that seed is the whole apple tree plus additional apples.
Yeah.
So it's like, there's truth to what you're saying, and I can't argue it. Because I'm like, okay, but
there's work lacking.
But there's also like, okay, yeah, I know you're saying it, and it's almost like, develop it then, because your truth is the truth of like your salvation is there, but you're not developing it in a way that people can see it. So then I feel like where he's like, with like the faith, where is that?
Well,
verse?
even the Lord saying, I'll know you by your fruit.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that goes right along with that example of like, I'll know you by your fruit, and I prune those I love. There is this, it's almost like we're literally, I feel like we're externally processing right now, right here live. It's almost like you work out your salvation. You know, there's this idea of like, you work out your salvation, and it's almost like you just need to get your branches growing, even if one's going to die, just so that you're reaching out to bear fruit. You know what I mean? And the Lord's like, you'll know I love you by me pruning you. And it's like a tree's doing the work, whether it's being pruned for a harvest next year or a harvest this year. It's doing the work. Yeah. I like that example.
And you see, we are shown to be right with God by what we do, not by faith alone. Mm-hmm. And I just feel like there's just the external. I feel like every spiritual request has to have a physical response. So it's like, so
your translation says, you'll see that you have been made right. It says, so you see, we are shown to be right with God by what we do, not by faith alone. Yeah, that's
there's just like that couple with it to me. It's like, yes, you're an apple farmer. You have all the apple seeds. I'm not going to argue. I mean, I can argue all day and pick it apart. And I know it's a terrible example, maybe.
No, I think it's a great example.
But I feel like, all right, well, plant one. Mm-hmm. Now it's going to take some work. Because now you got to like protect it and make it grow. And it's like, so I think like.
But now the world could actually see you're an actual apple farmer.
All of a sudden, I like that you got to start. All of a sudden, it's like, and then it's funny because there's no more there. It's just all of a sudden there's more there. Mm-hmm. It's weird. Seeds are weird. Looking at that.
This is crazy. How do we send it this week, Nate?
Gosh.
I liked that little bunny trail there. In conclusion, it's not your job to save you. It's your job to love the Lord and to allow that to overflow out of you.
Yep.
So you don't save you. Jesus saves you. And the Lord, he wants you to do something with what he's given you. It's the parable of the talents.
It
really
is. It's like, and that's where we don't compare to each other. Mm-hmm. The work of the Lord is to believe in the one whom he sent. If you start with that work, start there. Just work on your belief in Jesus as the Son of God, and then let that to start cultivating something, to do something, to put like an action towards that belief. Mm-hmm. And then that'll start growing it out.
Yep. I like it.
Boom.
Boom. That's how you send it. Chapter 2 is deep, thoughtful.
Okay.
Confusing. No,
all right, guys. We love you guys. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for subscribing, liking, and sharing. Hitting the button, ringing the bell, leaving a comment.
All the things.
If it's hard to find us on YouTube, like we said, just type in one of our names along with Full Send Living, and it'll pop up a little sooner.
Yep.
Or find it on our Instagrams and our link and like in our links. All right. Thanks,
Bingo.
guys. Love you, man.
Love you guys. Have a good day.
Bye-bye.
Bye.